Welcome to the final day of the Volvo Ocean Race stopover here in Lisbon, one of the oldest cities in the world with a rich maritime history, playing a central role in the age of discovery from the 15th to the 18th century, conjuring up famous names such as Vasco da Gama and Ferdinand Magellan. 6 of the 7 boats in action today competed in the last edition of the race, after which the boatyard completely overhauled and refitted the boats, fixing and improving the fleet, making them good as new and ready to be pushed to their limit on another lap of the planet. The city has taken the race to its heart, with locals and visitors all enjoying the unique Portuguese hospitality down at the race village, enjoying the spectacle, the sailing and the anticipation. Before we get into the action today, let's take a look back at how the fleet raced here on leg 1 from Alicante.
It is not the critic who counts. Not the man who points out how the strong stumble or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the one who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends themselves in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if they fail, at least fail while daring greatly, so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
It's tough to convey to the average person just how difficult this race is.
Of course it's difficult, to switch from your life on shore, being a father and a husband, and a son, to a month's time completely shut off the world.
There might be mums and dads, and literally it's like, look after my boy and look after my girl, and I'd be like, whoa.
The most difficult part for me, for sure, is about my kids.
And you have to keep mentally strong and don't break down.
Once you are set sail, you cannot step off.
You can't go home.
You're out in the middle by yourself.
I truly believe it's the greatest team sport in the world.
It's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week experience.
You're physically exhausted, you don't get enough sleep, you don't eat any fresh food, yet we love it.
First off, I don't give a what, swag at the utmost, swinging like a nunchuck, turning tough thugs, love bugs, better call a truce, gorillas on the loose, better duck, coming up from below like an uppercut, so they jumping up just
It's only 44,995 miles.
The learning curve is like that.
For the runner-ups, okay, I'm on my way, 24/7, 365 days, don't care what nobody say, either you riding or you moving out of my way.
Now we got a broken water pump, and we just started. This is the Volvo Ocean Race after all.
I've got to catch Exxon we gave them a crew member and they're down there.
Move something, move something. Move something. You want to move something? Move something. I know like you want to move something, move something.
We've made it out of Gibraltar in one piece.
But 2 hours in my bunk. I feel like a new woman. I feel wonderful.
No one looks forward to a rough night, but we're looking forward to a fast night, that's for sure.
How the f does the ping come out of the head unit?
Got plenty on at the moment. The wet weather gear's getting a good workout.
I guess the longest I've been at sea is a week, so I'm enjoying it.
We're learning a lot.
A lot of work to do yet.
We can win the race now.
Of course.
It's been pretty tough watching the whole fleet come into us, even though we knew it was going to happen.
Esto es un sprint.
Excellent! Really close.
And off to the finish we go.
One thing I'm most looking forward to tomorrow when we get off this boat is a shower.
What a disaster here. Oh. Yeah.
That's so close from this.
Good morning, Lisbon! Here come the scallywags from Hong Kong.
This morning we had a fantastic dock out and emotions were running high as the boats left Lisbon for the final time. Only a half stone. Couldn't feel it on the dock this morning. Hugs and cheers and a few little tears, that's for sure. Joined in the commentary booth by Sally Barkow. Emotions, you got the feels, right?
Definitely a morning of feels. A lot going on with the breeze, and everybody is fired up to get out there.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we had all the superstars of sailing and we had a massive crowd. And really, it was the emotion that took it this morning, and some tears on the dock. The ceremonial handover of the flags for the next leg to Cape Town, South Africa, and the blessing of the fleet is always that quiet moment when there's a little reflection from sailors, family, and friends. It was quite the morning. Now, the boat's out on the water. Quite something, I can tell you. The Spanish fans everywhere and all those Netty fans loving it. Today is the start of leg 2, the iconic 7,000 nautical mile 3-week marathon to Cape Town, South Africa. A thunderous charge west for 72 hours in over 30 knots of wind into the Atlantic. Then past the Cape Verdes, avoiding the light airs behind the mountainous islands. Then it's the frustrating and tricky challenge to find the fastest way through the light and fickle horse latitudes, the doldrums. Across the equator, a first for many and a milestone for all. Then potential brig breeze in the South Atlantic, the final charge east with a backdrop of Table Mountain to the arrival in Cape Town. Let's hear the thoughts direct from the skippers.
Probably one of our favourite legs of the race.
From harvest to spring, I guess, or from winter to summer.
And leg 2 is actually probably one of the more complex legs we're going to do.
I think the first big decision what you have to make once leaving Lisbon, how far to the west you are going?
Because of the way the world spins and the way the trade winds work, you usually have to go all the way to Brazil to get to Cape Town, which sounds a little counterintuitive, but west is best, as they say.
Do you go further west or do you go south? Of course, south look good on the position reports because every mile you're getting closer to Cape Town.
It's going to be, again, the start is going to be important. It's a very long downwind B&G race all the way to the equator.
The temperature's going to go up quite quick because we're going to be making really good ground.
It's a very interesting one, maybe more interesting than it's been in the past because they've taken out Fernando as a rounding mark off of Brazil.
We get to the doldrums, so we're going to have that whole section to deal with.
So again, another key moment is to pass the equator in the front so you can catch up the southern hemisphere side winds and then stretch. So.
And then in the equator, you always try to be, where you need to be as west as possible to pick up actually the trade winds that run on the southern hemisphere.
Boat that gets out of the doldrums first usually gets a little jump kind of into the South Atlantic Ocean, and you get traditional troughs off of off of South America, and then hopefully you hook onto some sort of, you know, frontal system that brings you across, you know, the first taste of the Southern Ocean and into Cape Town.
Also a little bit of the floating ice coming up from the south. I understood that there is a little bit of ice coming from going towards Cape Town northeast, so it will give us some restrictions maybe of how far south we can go.
And then plenty of hard stuff at the end into Cape Town.
So yeah, it's a leg of 21, 22 days with probably technical decisions every day again, and there will be in this one design class of boats, it will be a big speed contest again.
Certainly one of the favourite legs for the skippers. It brings everything from breeze to light airs to some Southern Ocean at the end. Sally, current conditions right now?
Pretty epic out there. I think, yeah, 15 to 20 knots, blowing, even maybe gusting up to 24, 25 knots. Current pushing the boats down up the river, and it's going to be full-on puffy, shifty conditions to get through this little leg.
That weather brought to you by Vestas, one of the sponsors of Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Thanks for their support for this. We go to live pictures. Mainsails are up, and it looks like full mainsails for the first reach up the river, and then they'll go around the top mark. But it looks great. Spectator fleet looking well behaved this afternoon here in Lisbon. Beautiful sunshine. Let's have a look at the course, and we'll whiz all the way down to Lisbon. This is just the beginning of the course as we start here just off the Marina Port, head up towards the April the 25th bridge, which was commemorating the Carnation Revolution, and then they'll reach down towards mark number 3, and there are a couple of marks and an island for them to pass as they head out of the Tagus River. And then the next mark, Cape Town. Let's go for the race overall results as they stand. Vestas 11th Hour Racing currently leading. They get the bonus point for each of the legs. Matt Frey in second, Dongfeng Race Team in third, Team Axo Nobel in fourth, in fifth, Team Sung Hun Kai Scallywag, in sixth, Team Brunel, and in seventh, Turn the Tide on Plastic. So it is a short run up the river, then back down past the enormous spectator fleet, and pretty much the next mark is the finishing line off Table Mountain in Cape Town. That'll be an amazing Table Bay it is. We can see the breeze. You can look across the water, and some areas you see dark on the water, some areas you see a little lighter. The dark patches are the winds and the puffs. Brunel in a puff right now on the left-hand side, a little lighter breeze towards the right-hand side to windward of Vestas 11th Hour Racing. We go on board with Charlie Enright. This is Vestas 11th Hour Racing, the winners. Jenna Mai Hansen there, just at the back of the boat. She's new on board.
Trim on, guys.
Let's go down to Nick Bice for a quick comment. Bicey, what do you see?
Plenty of breeze, plenty of tide, plenty of nerves. It's going to be an epic start here. Probably one of the best that we've seen for some time.
Well, Nick Bice has done 2 of these races in the past, and this is his 6th involvement in the edition of the Volvo Ocean Race. He's the Chief Technical Officer looking after all the boats. With 1 minute and 10 seconds, Nick will be bringing us insight and some of his unique Australian comments about the race as we get in with less than a minute to go. Sally, what are the boats doing right now?
Well, they're just putting their bow into the tide here. They're all on starboard at the moment, but they actually have to start this race on port tack. So you see them lining up, jockeying for position on starboard. Pretty soon they're going to tack around and hope they're not over this line. Hope they're not too early.
Oh, let's listen in to Vestas 11th Hour Racing as they go for the tack. Sound of the winches. Everyone now pushing their way onto port. 25 seconds to go now. It looks like everyone's okay, and they're starting to accelerate, putting the bow down. We're on Dongfeng Race Team right now. They're a little behind the fleet for their final approach.
You can turn this way.
Here we go for the start of leg 2 from Lisbon to Cape Town, the iconic leg down into the South Atlantic. It is go, go, go. Brunel leading. Vestas 11th Hour Racing, a great start from them as the gun goes. Super start. Matt Frey having to tack on to start, but they were late.
Yeah, super late. It looked like the tide was actually pushing them beyond the committee boat, lower than the committee boat, having to tack, and same with Turn the Tide there. What a big mistake. Not something you need right now.
And Axo Nobel being forced to tack away. Because Matt Frey were late, Axo Nobel were on port. They have to give room. They have to keep clear, and that forced them to tack. So at the back of the fleet, Turn the Tide on plastic, Axo Nobel and Matt Frey not having the best of starts right there.
Tricky one to get that ley line off that start mark correct with the tide pushing you so far below it.
Let's go down to the water for the latest right after the start. Nick Bice.
Yeah, what's interesting here is Brunel has started with a J2 jib, a bit smaller than the rest, but they are looking as though they have the fractional code 0 ready to roll out at any stage. So we expect them to get some legs on the rest of the fleet very soon.
And just tell us, Nick, there were 3 boats that didn't actually make the starting line in full fashion. What happened there?
So pretty tricky with this tide, and I think just a little lack of preparation to check what the tide was exactly doing, and they missed their runway. Fortunately for Bauer Becking, going for his eighth shot at the title, he's got away very nicely.
Well, there we go. A little bit of lack of preparation, perhaps. A little bit of a mistake on board, perhaps. Early stage nerves. Shouldn't happen at this level, but hey-ho, it does sometimes, and that is the joy of racing. On board, Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Seems calm. Oh, they got a rip in their jib. Looks midway up. Sally, do you see that? Is that a tear in the jib?
It sure looks like it. You know, that could be from the top of the board. If it gets caught on the way through one of the tacks, maybe just put a puncture through that.
Early drama on board the current leaders. They won the first leg from Alicante to Lisbon, sailed a beautiful leg. We're just going to stick with that. And is that a problem? Could that get worse?
It could. Maybe it actually looks like the head of the batten is punctured through there on the reinforcement. It'd be interesting to figure out if they actually recognize that, if they have looked up and had a look.
Oh, great pictures from the helicopter right there. That's giving us the torn sail. That just won't be good at all. Already the job list is starting.
Yeah, not good. But it goes to show, if you see where Brunel's at with their J2, it's just a much safer sail in this situation. And without having the J1, you really have to look after those battens and the jibes and the tacks.
I think they've just seen it. Tony Mutter, the trimmer to leeward. Now the breeze coming off the shore in Lisbon, so one of the things is it's very puffy, and the breeze comes around all of the castles and the that's a UNESCO World Heritage site right there. Beautiful. And Brunel still leading with that smaller jib up, so seamanship perhaps showing it for Bauer Becking and his crew.
Yeah, one thing I really like about this decision is that the J2 can just easily be furled away, and you can deploy the Fro, which is a bigger sail. They might even just keep this configuration all the way around the course, keeping it very simple.
On board, Team Brunel. Big puff.
Plenty of time. Trim on me.
Pete Burling at the back, giving it heaps on the pumps. He is grinding.
Trim on.
Big hole in front of you.
Yeah, got it. Keep going. One for a big pass there, Steve. Copy. Forward, forward.
Look at that. Pete Burling has won a gold medal in the Olympics. He's just won the America's Cup, and he's at the back of the boat, grinding hard.
It looks all about gear changes out there, doesn't it? They're just talking about the pressure, trying to set the boat up. Whether they're going to deploy this fractional to get more sail area, maybe in the lull, we'll see.
So one of the sailors there calling all the puffs. That's very useful. Why?
Very useful, and I think it's Annie Lush. She's just calling how long the next lull is going to be, because they have the decision here. Now they're going slower with the J2. Are they going to deploy the fractional or not?
Okay, let's go down on the water. Dongfeng race team seem to be going on the outside line. Nick Bice, what say you?
We're
Brunel have just unfurled the fractional zero. I think they must have felt a little bit slow, and that's why Dongfeng and Vestas have gone a little wide to try and get around them. But we can see Bauer and his team fully powered up now off the shore of Lisbon here.
Yeah, fascinating. Thanks for that, Nick. And Sally called it. She said, keep that jib up so that you can roll it. And then they put up their big sail, the fractional zero. But it looks like Vestas 11th Hour Racing got a nice bit of puff, and they're still holding. They need that big breeze, and Baubeck's gambling on it going a little light, maybe.
Maybe going a little light, and you know, they're just one step closer to shore, and with that you get the bigger lulls. And they're just going to have to, they're nice pressure to bear away in. Hopefully they just go right over the top of Vestas 11th Hour and make that powerful sail useful.
Breeze went forward, so the wind went out of the sails there, but it did go light, so this is fascinating just to see the different sail choices and the way they handle the puffs of breeze as they come in. Dongfeng race team now in a little light spot.
It's 100% about changing gears here, and you know, so much communication, so much coordination with the trimmer, the driver, the puff calling, as you were saying, to keep these boats going.
Right, no engines on board. It's not actually gears and a car, but what do you mean by that?
I mean by they're trying to read the wind, and if they can anticipate the puff coming, then they can ease the sails to it. And there it is, Brunel just legging out, making use of that sail. But you see how hard it is. They're sort of running over their own wind, which means they're going faster than the wind and falling into the hole. They have to be careful here that they don't puncture that fractional with the spreader.
Well, that may well have been what happened to Vestas 11th Hour Racing. They just put a hole in their jib. Burling having a look to leeward. He's the guy right on the back there, keeping eyes on the prize. Let's go on board. Kyle Langford talking about the puff building on the left-hand side. That'll make them happy. Two totally different sail combinations here. Jury, awesome start, Team Brunel. Yeah, plenty of Dutch fans out there. The Dutch, Holland have won the race 4 times, more than any other nation. Famously, editions 2 and 3 of the race with Connie van Rietschouten on Flyer and Flyer 2. And the first winners, the Mexicans on Sayula. Incredible documentary, if ever you get the chance to go and watch it, about their victory in the first edition of the Volvo Ocean Race. Similarly, Connie van Rietschouten is an amazing sailor, was a true gentleman of the sport, but also a real passionate sailor. And he actually, on his second leg around, he had a heart attack in the Southern Ocean, but he didn't want any doctor help from the boat behind them. And so he went down below, took a few aspirin, and came up 2 days later, said, I'm okay, let's carry on. And they won on corrected time and won the Volvo Ocean Race Edition 3. Great for them, all the fans. Loving it. Well, Vestas just holding on, and Dongfeng race team giving them something to think about as well, Sally.
Yeah, I really like where Dongfeng are. They're just, like I said, one more step to leeward. Hopefully they can hold the pressure a little bit longer and power through Vestas. It's still about this gear changing and reading the pressure. And I think what we're seeing, whoa, there's a huge puff ahead there. I see what Brunel does with this, but to me, they're a bit out of whack with that fractional. They're trimming it, having to do a massive effort to trim it on and off, which is actually slowing them down.
Charlie Enright. Pressure, that's the speed of the wind. And leg jumpers on board. Back there dressed in orange. Oh, looks like too much breeze for that big sail there, Sally.
Yeah, well, they should be furling that up quite soon, I would say, unless they think they're going to be able to hold on to it. And there they go, going for the furl. They're going to lose a bit of boat lengths on this move.
It's like you've done this before, Sally. With SCA in the last edition of the race, you furled up that sail a few times. Just give us a feeling of the emotion here on board the boats.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's just so focused on their job, and there's probably 3 things around them they have to really pay attention to make this whole connection work. You see everybody moving all the time, and when you're on the wrong sail, you just have this feeling that you're on the wrong sail, and you have to do some big effort to change.
Okay, let's go down on the water to our man, Nick Bice.
Yeah, the Brunel unfortunately fell out of phase there a little bit, and the big breeze coming down under the bridge here. So the configuration of both Vestas 11th Hour and Dongfeng is working very nicely for them.
Thank you, Nick. And it looks like Dongfeng, maybe on this lower road, have taken a better position. Nick?
Yeah, Dongfeng, both Vestas 11th hour and Dongfeng are slightly cracked sheet, so it's quite fast sailing here. And they can just change modes, as Sally was saying earlier, a lot easier than what Brunel had with their fractional zero. So we expect they'll probably poke their nose out a bit further on Brunel now and just try and navigate their way around these gusts that are coming up down the river. It's fantastic out here.
Yeah, Nick, what a beautiful shot we're getting of the whole fleet, of 5 at the front of the fleet as they go under the April 25th bridge. And that bridge has a very similar look to the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, but actually it was built by an American firm who built the Oakland Bridge. They painted it red, and I think it looks like they might have been into their office and stolen the plans. It looks very similar. Nick, the question I've got, is there more tide in the middle where Dongfeng race team are?
Yeah, I would say so. The deeper the part of the river would be the maximum tide. So depending on the actual charts themselves, because it is very deep alongside on the inside of the river here as well, where the shipping terminal is. We're just going underneath a huge gust now that Dongfeng's in, possibly over 25 knots. So this is unbelievable out here. This will be one of the most iconic starts ever.
Okay, great to have Nick giving us the insight, and it is a big puff on Dongfeng race team. We've got pictures of them right now as they steam under the bridge, going extremely fast. But Sally, just talk to us about how difficult it is to see the breeze. What are the sailors looking for, and why is that the skill of a sailor, setting one apart from the other?
Yeah, they're just really trying to read the water, as we say. So they're looking for the darker patches on the water that you can see there on the screen, but they're also reading the angle of the wind, which is really the technique of a sailor. And a good sailor can tell you if it's a puff that's going to change angle or be straight as it comes to them. As we say, lifted or headed. But that's really the dynamic, and if they steer to that and trim to that, then the boat just keeps accelerating through the pressure.
Well, there are plenty of people commuting to work. There are people on the boats as well. This is something of a commute to their next stop in the office in Cape Town, South Africa. Now, on board, I think, Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Let's take a look in. Tom Johnson, Nick Dana. Nick from Newport, Rhode Island, one of the stopovers of the Volvo Ocean Race. They're all looking forward to hosting this incredible fleet there at Fort Adams. They put on a great show the last time the Volvo Ocean Race stopped there in the previous edition. What's Tom up to right there?
Just clearing the sheets. It looks to me like they just hoisted, from what I can see, maybe the J2. I would imagine they're going to be putting a bigger sail up for this short little turning mark rounding, and then we'll see what angle they have on the way back. Hard to see from that little angle.
Okay, here we've got the whole fleet. So in 7th, let's turn the tide on plastic. You didn't have the best start, but we're going to give you 22 knots from 010, basically from just to the right of north from Vestas. The sponsor for the wind graphics, rather appropriately. They make wind turbines. And Akzo Nobel just in front of them. They were forced to tack away as Mapfre were on starboard at the start. And then it is Sunkai Scallywag, then Team Brunel, then Vestas 11th Hour Racing, and then Dongfeng Race Team. Let's listen in.
Right now.
Take about 80.
Okay, hold trim. Again, one pressure again. You know what? Trim in the front. Trim the front. Pressure now. Stop in 3 for a long time.
The voices of Marie Rioux and Carolyn Brewer there, recording those puffs.
Stop here. A little pressure here. Okay, good on trim. Stop here.
Excellent. Dongfeng doing a really nice job there of managing those puffs of breeze, trimming. Nick, We're gonna just have a look at Turn the Tide on Plastic right there. They just had a little problem just at the back there with this very hectic situation where they're trimming the sails in and big puffs coming in and out. We've got a few spectator boats out there getting a really nice shot of the fleet as they go up towards the first mark at the top here. So that's where you get a lull. The breeze goes light, Sally.
Breeze goes light, and if you're not really on the trim, you know, then you're just gonna like lose that pressure, and because you have the keel out 40 degrees trying to hold it off in the big puff and the lull, it knocks you over to windward like that.
Yeah, so just talk to us about that for those that aren't particularly familiar with these Volvo Ocean 65s. Unlike a traditional boat where the keel just goes up and down, this actually swings from side to side. Why?
Swings from side to side to create maximum righty moment, basically. You have the whole keel out 40 degrees to windward as you would do on Dongfeng right there. I'm sure these boats are sailing with their full power on, so they can adjust this keel quite quickly, and the really experienced helms will be adjusting it. You'll hear the engine moving.
Tell me which sheets you're on, Black. Okay.
Well, these moments are the busy moments trying to get out of the dock here from Lisbon. They're just trying to get through this first series of legs, but the emotion on the dock starting to just dissipate as they get now into the real action on the boats. And they've got everyone on the winch grinders, and those handles there, Sally, they wind the winches on either side, but actually they're pulling up the sail at the front.
That's right, they're going for a hoist right now, so all those handles are connected to the pit winch, which is a very forward winch on the boat. One of the hardest things to do is hoist the sails, so you'll put everybody in.
Hoisting the sails. Jill Speechley, thank you for your comments. We're waiting for you in Cape Town. Safe sailing. Well, that is very important, Sally. It is important to not only be fast, but be safe as well. It's 7,000 miles.
7,000 miles, and quite quickly when they turn down after this little leg in and out of the river, it's going to get pretty big out there, and that's really what the teams are focusing on, getting around these marks in a safe way, making sure their equipment is nice and protected, and then having a full blast downwind to Cape Town.
Now, we saw and heard from Carolyn Brewer and Marie Ryu on board Dongfeng race team, and it is really great. You were a pioneer in an all-women's team in SCA. Great to have all the women involved, and just talk to us about them getting this amazing experience. They're incredibly qualified Olympians, gold medal winners.
Yeah, Caroline and Marie were the first two to get signed on as women in the race, and well-deserved. Marie comes from a fantastic Olympic background, one of the most talented natural sailors I've ever come across. Did a lot of match racing on the bow against her. And then Caroline was one of our watch captains on SCA, so the experience there is just what she's bringing to them is really valuable, and I think she's become one of their lead trimmers on Dongfeng.
And just talking of that, you sailed with Caroline. What are her skills? What does she bring to the party?
You know, Caroline is just very straightforward on the boat, and she's, you know, really fast at driving.
Great. Well, we've got at the windward mark, it is Dongfeng race team leading to the first mark here in Lisbon. Great sailing from them. And we've got the Amiga clock counting down. That gives us what we call the delta between the first boat and the next boats as the Dongfeng race team bear away. Dongfeng race team lead to the first mark here in Lisbon. Second, it's Vestas, 11th Hour Racing. A great show from them as they bear away around the top mark. Looks like they've got their masthead zero up there, was it? Or is that the fractional zero? Well, we'll take it in a moment. On board with Vestas. Stacey Jackson, Mark Towell, Tony Mutter on the left, he's a trimmer. We've sailed with him, amazing, cool, calm Kiwi. Third around the top mark, Bauer Becking and Team Brunel.
Next move is 42.
Your top three right there, Dongfeng race team, Vestas 11th Hour Racing and Team Brunel, all battling it out hard up the Tagus River here in Lisbon. Next thing we'll see is probably a jibe, Sally.
Yep, I think they have a short jibe into this next mark, and then they'll be heating it up again back through the bridge.
Here we go for the jibe. This looks complicated.
Yeah, they have quite a lot going on here. They probably have to furl this all the way up to get it through because they have the J2.
Just push it through, right?
Or just push it through. A little risky. Here's a bit of a tangle going on.
Yeah, they did furl it up, and now they're going to unfurl, but they didn't quite furl it up as much as they could.
Yeah, oh, sorry, they still have the J1 up, so they tried to do an outside jibe there, which is good, but you see the overlaps of the sails, quite sticky.
Okay, starting on starboard. In 4th place, it's Sung Hoon Kai Scallywag. In 5th place, Mapfre. In 6th place, Axo Nobel. In 7th place, Turn the Tide on Plastic. Okay, let's go down to Nick Bice for an update on the water.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting here. It's the tide is playing a big part of the tactics here. We've got Vestas with the masthead sail on, along with Axo Nobel, and the rest of the teams with fractional sails on. We're starting to see Dong Fong here getting fully lit up. They'll be flying out this river very shortly.
Our Vestas 11th Hour Racing going to keep it ahead of Team Brunel. Bicey, from where you see, it looks close.
Yeah, I think Vestas will slip through in front of Brunel here. They've just started to come into a bit more pressure, but it's going to be pretty tricky getting out of here with a masthead sail on. Much bigger sail area than Dong Fong, for example. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that one.
Well, a punchy call from Vestas 11th Hour Racing as they put up all the gear, and the forecast is for plenty of breeze as we go out of the Tagus River here. This is the final racing mark. They just have to honour a few marks and islands as they go down towards Cape Town. That's the next mark. Brunel, 3rd. Sung Hoon Kai Scallywag in 4th. And look at the distance that Vestas 11th Hour Racing have put on Brunel by having that masthead zero. Now, we can look at the difference on Brunel. They have got the fractional zero. It doesn't go all the way to the top of the mast. Sung Hoon Kai Scallywag, the same as our Mapfre, but when we get another picture of Vestas 11th Hour Racing, we'll be able to see the difference between this fractional code zero and the masthead code zero, which goes all the way to the top. A lot more sail area, and in this breeze, that is a big call.
It's a huge call, especially coming out of the river. What might happen is that it's too much sail area and the boat will just become draggy. If they're not able to trim it on and keep the boat under control, they'll just be losing distance. You see Dongfang here, they are just ripping along 17, 18 knots because they have a really right amount of sail area, keep the boat powered up and trucking.
Oh, Mapfre trying to get ahead of Sung Hoon Kai Scallywag, and David Witt says, no, you're not going that way. If you go to windward of a boat, one of the oldest rules in sailing, if you try and pass another boat, you have to keep clear to windward. Sounds off the boats, that's easing the winch, right? And just when you said draggy, what do you mean by that?
Well, when a sail starts to luff or flutter like a flag, then it becomes quite draggy. You have too much sail area, and the boat is too heeled over. And maybe we have get a look at Vestas 11th Hour here and see if they're able to hold the actual full power of the masthead.
Eyes on Dongfang race team right now, the leaders.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Voices from Vestas 11th Hour Racing.
Stand by, J2 out.
The J2.
Adding more sail area.
Stand by, J2 out when we're ready.
Wow.
Unless they're going for a change here. Yeah, you see how they're not able to actually stay fully trimmed on the masthead there, and Brunel is actually catching them because they have smaller sail area.
There we go, we can see the code zero now,
yeah, it's
all the
right
way up
under
the
the
masthead.
shipping port.
The difference there, right there between the two sails. Let's go on board Vestas. Charlie Enright slightly nervously looking over his shoulder at Team Brunello, breathing down his neck.
Great shot of the actual sail shapes. Perfect. If you were a trimmer, that's just what you want to be looking at. You can actually see the shapes are quite the same, but the sail area of the masthead is just so much more.
About 150 square meters less on the fractional code zero from the masthead code zero. And it is Vestas 11th Hour Racing. They look all right, actually. They look under control on that zero, do they?
They sure do, and maybe we heard Charlie say it gets a little lighter under the bridge here, so maybe they'll be able to squeak a little more distance away hold on in the big puffs.
Scallywag coming behind as well.
I don't see
With a fro?
Yes.
Charlie's just talking about the boats coming up to them with the fractional. He's a little worried that they may have made the wrong call there. So difficult to make these choices, Sally.
It sure is. And right now, if he goes for a sail change, they're just going to be towards the back of the fleet. So I would really see them trying to hold on to what they have, anticipate the next mark, and if they make a change, it'll be on the next turn.
So Mokai Scallywag with their fractional 0.
Nice how the boats just surf through the water there, isn't it? It's just quite steady and powerful.
What a great feeling. And now I guess they can start to just relax a little bit, take a little breath. There's lots of grinding on the winch pedestals, but now they're just figuring out we're on the way, and they'll stay on this tack now for 4 days.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, we got the compass angles going the right direction, and time to settle in, isn't it? And once they get around these next 2 marks, they'll really start to open up and, you know, let the boat feel the groove and just, like I said, start blasting south.
Dongfeng race team have done a very nice job of extending a big lead. Let's go down to Nick Bice and get the latest from on the water. Nick.
Yeah, lots very gusty conditions here. We just saw Dongfeng earlier, like, really extend on the rest of the fleet. They're in a bit of a lull now, and it looks as though Brunel is back in the breeze. So got some rubber band sailing here. The fleet extends, then it tightens up again. They come back together. What's interesting out the back of the fleet of AXA Nobel is they haven't unfurled any fractional 0 or masthead 0. They're just still sailing with their conservative jib. But that's part of the game here, to be quite conservative, poke your nose out, and then send it on its way, all the way to Cape Town.
And Nick, just tell us, you've done this race twice before, just tell us of what the emotions are going through the heads of the sailors right now.
At the moment, the sailors are so busy, they wouldn't be worrying about anything too much. The nerves will be gone. But I tell you what, once they start getting settled in, they get the stack on the side of the boat, and they'll be off. They're going to have some fantastic conditions tonight, up to 30 knots. Very similar to when we left Vigo in the 2005 race, I think. And I tell you what, there's a saying, ignorance is bliss. We were a bunch of young guys sailing a Volvo 70 extremely fast. We didn't know where the limit was, and the midnight sked, we were around 20 miles ahead of everyone else, only to realise that maybe we should back her off a notch or 2.
Well, you had a great race, and it's great to hear your insights. Ignorance is bliss, certainly for those that haven't done this race before. The forecast, Nick, is for 72 hours, 3 or 4 days of breeze in the 25 to 35 knot range.
Yeah, it's going to be, this is what the Volvo Ocean Race is all about. I mean, you don't need the Southern Ocean for those sorts of conditions, and they're getting it straight out of Lisbon. It's going to be, as I've said before, one of the most epic starts this leg has ever seen. So hold on tight. Dongfeng now in a massive gust of breeze. They're extending nicely away from the fleet again. So we're going to see them get settled down soon, get the stack on the side of the boat, and yeah, it won't be long before these guys and girls are out of sight.
So Nick, thanks for your great insight. And when you haven't done the race before, as you said, it really is ignorance is bliss. But you figured it out pretty quickly, I assume.
Yeah, it's the lessons get taught pretty quickly.
And I seem to remember you won the 24-hour record. You held the 24-hour record at some point on your boat.
It was actually during the first leg in 2005, we were on par actually for the 24-hour record on the boat ABN AMRO 2. Not only, we actually got a phone call from Mike Sanderson on ABN AMRO 1 telling us to slow it down, telling us that we need to get these boats to the finish line, only for him to go and get the 24-hour record 6 hours later.
Great story. Wonderful. Well, we got
him back in the second leg though, and we held that 24-hour record for quite some time.
Well done, Nick, and it's great to hear the stories raw, live and direct from down on the water, and this race is able to make some amazing stories. The adventurers of Lisbon famous here for setting off in their Portuguese Cavala boats, which were extremely fast going upwind particularly. They were able to trim the sails, and this was 300 years ago, and they were able to sail to Brazil, and it was the age of discovery. Let's go on board with Team Brunel. Abby, right there.
Tough as always, Abby, pushing on the handles, connecting the dots with the sail changes.
You've sailed with Abby?
Yeah, sailed with Abby on the M32 and some match racing, but also she was our boat captain on SCA, teaching us all how to be safe on board. And like I said, the sail changes and the connections with the teamwork usually comes directly from that pit roll. They're really commanding all the moves.
Well, we were talking about the different choice between the masthead zero and the fractional zero. And looking back now, Vestas 11th Hour Racing have been passed by Team Brunel, potentially by Sung Hun Kai's Scallywag. Why don't they just change it?
Because a change is costly here, and you know, they're probably gonna, I think they're thinking they can just sort of hang on in the puffs and maybe gain in the lulls. If they go for a change, it's like I said, it's gonna cost them a handful of boat lengths, and you know, if it's not super necessary, they're only losing, they're kind of bleeding right now, bleeding boat lengths instead of just losing a whole bunch at once.
Dongfeng race team seem to have everything pretty much under control as they lead the fleet out there. Team Brunel just to the right of screen, having quite a big puff on them. And then it's gone light a little bit further behind with Axo Nobel, and you can see there Vestas 11th Hour Racing suffering from having too much sail area up, and that's slowing them down a little bit because all that extra material is a drag on the wind, and so their boat speed a little less. Axo Nobel seem all roped up there, and they have a nice puff of breeze. Let's go on board Vestas and see if we can listen to some chat.
Here it is. It only lasts for 30, okay? Good there, Kel. Yeah, good there. Yes. Yes, go water.
Okay, they're putting water into the boat now.
Okay, pumps on.
So they're opening up sort of a intake at the back of the boat there, and you heard Charlie say pump on, so they pump it from the leeward intake up to the windward back corner of the boat. And by putting more water up there, they can increase riding moment and hold more sail area, but also the boat will just go faster through the water.
Yeah, we heard the voice of Simon Fisher.
Little shot on the bow.
They had an amazing leg from Alicante to Lisbon, and a real confidence booster for this team. Most of them were with, or some of them were with Alva Medica for the last edition of the race, and they've done a great job, and they really sailed incredibly well to all of those in the sort of technical elements of sailing. Those in the small circle of experts were very impressed with Simon Fisher, his navigation skills, and the way the team managed the first leg.
Yeah, I mean, you can't pay for experience. Usually, you have to earn it, and that's what Simon has done. And he made the team look fantastic on that leg, like you said, not making any mistakes, going fast at fast angles, and that's just what experience pays for, really.
Well, all of you watching, and feel free to comment on the Facebook comment section. You can tell us where you're watching from, and if you've got any questions, we'll try and get those to you. One of the questions we've had, Sally, is how will Charlie Enright fix that sail that they had a rip in? What's the process? Before you answer that, let's just go on board with Dongfeng.
Ouais, un petit ballast.
So now they're emptying the water.
Little press here, you can... away when we have a little bit extra.
Must be a big lull.
The G1 is over trim. The G1 is over trim.
J1 over trim. Sally, translate.
Well, it's J1's their second sail there, so if it's over trimmed, it's just sort of stalling, and you probably keep it. See how now it is kind of luffing, just letting the wind flow through. You don't need it over trimmed.
Now it's under trimmed.
Now it's under trimmed, yeah. Can't win. But it looks like they hit a big lull. They're emptying water out of the back of the boat. They don't need that drag. They don't need the riding moment anymore. They might be dropping the keel. Looks like they're just trying to hang on through this light air.
So Simon So that was Pascal Badegri just saying, come on, pressure. They want more breeze because the boats behind are catching them up. That's not what you want in a race.
That's not what you want. You can see Brunel there just powering through in the shot, and now they can see where Dongfeng is and with no wind, so they're probably just going to try to push through to leeward.
Yeah, look at the puff just in front of Brunel, not where Dongfeng is. Brunel, great pressure. Maybe we'll see a lead change.
Maybe we'll see a lead change, but they might hit this hull just the same. We'll have to...
Brunel have got it all fired up there with their fractional code 0 just to leeward of the Dongfeng race team. Now, Dongfeng, oh, great shot of the Team Brunel's fractional code 0 tour.
Yeah, what a great shot. If you could just have this image in your head if you're a trimmer, you're looking at the luff of the sail there, the telltales telling you which way the wind is passing over, and you can see the leech to the left, and you also want those telltales flying, those little red ribbons off the back. You were just reading the wind as it's passing across the sail.
It's a bit like an aeroplane wing, that is, and there we go. Brunel have dropped out of the breeze, and Dongfeng have now got the breeze.
Snakes and ladders, huh? Snakes and ladders.
Yeah. Okay, Nick Bice, we'll go down to you. I've got a question. We've seen a torn sail already, and we've seen plenty of action on board the boats. You're a boat captain, and you look after all of these boats when they come into Cape Town. How's your job list looking? Seems to be growing already.
Yeah, well, you always got to start somewhere, and we started before the race even got underway. But that's all right. The team on board, they have some sail repair kits on board. They'll probably glue a patch over that particular area. Maybe, not sure if the batten was broken or not, but if it is, they'll have a bunch of spare battens on board as well. I mean, it's one of the skills of these Volvo Ocean Race teams is to actually have enough spares on board to ensure that they can get to the finish line in one piece. So I'm sure Tommy Johnson will be quite busy on that, and that's probably going to happen earlier rather than later.
So Nick, are the days of needle and thread all gone?
Yeah, that's been gone for a while now, and now it's glue and patch.
So North Sails, you have a strong relationship with them. What do they do for these boats? They provide all the sails for the boats?
So that they provide all the sails. All the boats have 2 sets of sails. They're 100% one design. Whilst they look different in colour, they're exactly the same shape, exactly the same size. So it's down to the teams to choose the correct sail, and it's down to the people, the crews on board, to sail the boat as fast as they can.
Now they just take one set of those sails with them, is that correct?
So in the 45,000 miles around the world, they have the ability to change sails to a second set, but they only carry one set at a time.
So if they damage a sail, they can then swap it out when they get to Cape Town. I guess that will be what happens with Vestas 11th Hour Racing, but I suspect that this isn't the only damage that these sails are going to see over the next 7,000 miles.
Oh no, these sails, there'll be quite a bit of abuse, but we've chosen these sails because they are very strong, and they'll make it around the world no problem.
And just give us a quick summary of what the sails are made of, Nick.
So the sails are made using a technique called 3DI. It's made of actually a thread called Twiron, which is basically laid on a flat board, and then it's all stuck together to give the sail shape. So we've done a lot of work with not only the North Sails but also the manufacturer of Twiron to ensure that these sails can make this epic journey of 45,000 nautical miles.
Yeah, they certainly come in for a bit of beating, and great to get some tech stuff from Nick Bice down on the water. And it looks like Mapfre and Sung Hun Kai Scallywag are having quite a battle in the middle of the fleet. We'll bring you that shortly as we see these pictures of Brunel. Remember, this is Bauer Becking's 8th attempt at winning the Volvo Ocean Race. He came second in the last edition to Ian Walker, who won on Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing. We see pictures of Ian all around the base, and he did an amazing job in the last edition. Sally, you raced against him. Just talk about the making of legends, because he spent 10 years trying to win it.
Yeah, he spent 10 years trying to win it. Has also a very strong Olympic background. He's just one of the leaders in the sport that, you know, once you've done it so many times, you're able to build a team around you that's just as strong as you, and that's what they did. And, you they deserved that race, and they were conservative when it needed to be conservative, and they were strong and gutsy and risky and powerful when that was also needed.
Well, Ian Walker decided to hang up his boots after he'd finally won it, but Bauer-Becking doesn't have that luxury yet. This is 8th time. He's still trying to win it. Can he do it for Holland? Hey, there we got one of the jumpers there.
10, okay, short-lived.
Off Vestas 11th Hour Racing. They didn't even look back at that lot. Just have a look at some of the jumpers here now on Dongfeng race team. That's Joana Pratas. She's a professional sailor, been to the Olympics, and she was the first Portuguese female to go to the Olympics. Here she goes, jumping off Dongfeng race team as she's like, hey, it's just a bit high. He's the main a bit.
She's looking down. It's a big one.
Hey, very nice.
Oh, good one.
Excellent. She gets a few points for hands in the air, and then her life jacket auto-inflates right there. Gets picked up by the Dongfeng race team chase boat. She'll be pulled on board safely. One of the great innovations of the Volvo Ocean Race is to have these leg jumpers who jump off the boat as they leave Lisbon here. It's quite the experience. Look at that. They are absolutely steaming along, 224 metres ahead of Team Brunel, and Mapfre just 250 metres ahead of Sunghunkai Scallywag, with Vestas 11th Hour Racing being now put under a bit of pressure by Exxon Nobel, and having that big masthead 0 up is not going to be good for them here, because it looks like Dongfeng race team are fully powered up.
Yeah, you just see Vestas sort of dropping back through the fleet, and
Sam Greenfield there, the onboard reporter on Sunghunkai Scallywag. Is that Sam? They're just cleaning the lens there. Thanks very much. Happily settled. I still feel for Bauer-Becking. 8 times, and he can't let it go. He's got to win it. Second last time to Ian Walker. You see it here. Is he going to make it happen? They had a great result in the import race on Friday. They sailed beautifully, and that really gave them a pep in their step. And now firmly in 2nd place, Team Brunel. Doing 17.5 knots downwind. There we go, the 2 leaders right there, Dongfeng race team and Team Brunel, as the spectator fleet follow them out. Now we are past the race village and heading out west-southwest. It'll be in a northerly airflow, 30 to 35 knots of breeze. There was plenty of nerves in the Sailors' Terrace where all the teams accumulated before leaving. They were a little worried. Certainly some of the veterans were a little worried for their younger folk, and as Spicer said to us earlier, it's quite a special moment to do the first few nights in 35 knots of breeze, Sally.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of what you live for, but what you're also pretty anxious about. And some of the first timers out there, you saw them start to get a little wound up as they're leaving the dock. But as Nick said, once they get going and really kind of settle in, and they're really focused on their job, they have plenty to do, and the nerves should be calming down.
And just tell us a bit about the adventure. I mean, we look at these boats racing, it's inch by inch, it's so close. They are desperately trying to get to the front of the fleet, but there's an element of adventure of this. It's traveling all the way around the world.
For sure. I mean, it's a race, it's competitive, and now that we're one design, it's a full-on boat-on-boat, race. But in or outside of all of that, you get to go, offshore for days on end, experience things that with your team that pretty much you don't ever get to do anywhere else, on any other sport, any other job. So all these individuals are really grasping at that. They love being out on the ocean. They love experiencing the big waves and the big wind, and they're going to get plenty of that.
You saw some nice sunsets?
Some nice sunsets and some beautiful sunrises. That was always my favorite. When you get on watch and you get to see the sunset, and the next thing you know, the next watch you get to see the sunrise, and amazing images, amazing stars, amazing storms, clouds. Yeah, you get to see it all up there.
And you get to put your phone down.
Yeah, that's also the best part. When they arrive in Cape Town, most of these sailors will not want to pick up their phone or turn it on, because it's blissful. It's not something you get to do nowadays, is turn your phone off for 23, 24 days, even longer. And you know, to have that release and just focus on one thing, making a boat go as fast as you can and win a race is really peaceful.
Well, they get to turn their phones off, but we do get to see some of their action live. We've got this new feature, the raw element of the Volvo Ocean Race website, where the teams can actually send their own pictures and comments, videos from live on board the boats. And technology is now such that we actually often know more about what's going on all the boats than the sailors do themselves. So it's a real pleasure to be able to get some of those things. You get to see plenty of wildlife as well. But before we do that, let's go down to Nick Bice for an update. And Nick, just give us a little insight into the adventure element of this race.
I mean, it's every element: adventurism, professionalism. It's fantastic. I can just actually see Pete Burling popping his head over the stack here on Team Brunel. I mean, for his first epic adventure, and I'm sure there's going to be a few stories when a few of these new guys go across the equator also.
Yeah, what is the tradition of going across the equator for those that don't know?
Well, King Neptune, you need to treat King Neptune with a lot of respect. But when you cross the equator for the first time, he'll definitely come out and get you. And I've got a fair idea who's going to be playing King Neptune on Brunel with Bauer Becking in his 8th edition. I actually worked for Bauer during my first race, and I think he still thinks he's my boss.
When you see him around the boatyard. So what happens? Do you get your little haircut or something?
Yeah, there'll definitely be some mohawks in Cape Town. From a few days out from the equator crossing, the guys and girls on board will be collecting some fish and brewing up a nice little brew down the back of the boat, made up of a bit of some old freeze-dried food, some flying fish, and it's a fair chance you'll probably be strapped to the foredeck with that poured all over.
Amazing. It's a wonderful tradition, the King Neptune looking out for everyone, and that is a sort of sacrifice as they go across the equator for the first timers. Mate, okay, Sung Hun Kai Scallywag, let's go on board. There's Parko, who won it with Ian Walker last time.
3,
let's listen in.
2, gear, just keep it flat.
David Witt in black on the left there, driving the boat, one of the real characters of this race, not afraid to call it how it is and say what's on his mind. A frank Australian, I think.
Yeah, he always has something to say, doesn't he? He's always fired up, never letting anybody go over the top of him, always luffing people and fighting for a spot. It's nice to see a character on the water.
There's Fish just to his left. Fish is on the just on the left there. Fish is with the sunglasses on, and he's been part of David Witt's boat race team. Steve Hales just in front of David Witt right now.
And that was Parko just asking, how do you feel about a reef? The breeze must be quite solid out there for them to be thinking about that.
Talking about a reef. The Volvo pavilion, you can see there in the background, that pavilion, there are 2 of them, and that gets broken down starting at about 5 o'clock this afternoon. Get taken to each stopover and they leapfrog as they go along. Here we are on board Don Front. Look at that, all fired up.
There we go, they're talking about a reef as well. Just the pressure's just getting more consistent as they leave the river, less impact from the land. And I wouldn't be surprised they just drop these reefs in quickly. The boat become more stable and actually faster. The same drag element that they had before. Once they drop the sail area of the main, the boat will just increase speed. And that's probably the configuration they're going to have for the next few days.
Darryl Wislang just trimming the mainsail, and we saw his family somewhat tearful as he left the dock, I have to say. It doesn't matter how many times you do it, it's still emotion. Okay, Vestas 11th Hour Racing just in front of us there. Let's go on board.
We want a reef? I don't think so. Oh. Get rid of the front sail before the reef.
Axo Nobel behind. Clever Tide and Plastic also behind. And everyone talking about a reef right now. Untitled plastic jumpers just leaving the back of the boat right now. Luisa Mipuri, wife of Paolo, the founders of the Mipuri Foundation. We've also got Ben Fogel, the broadcaster and author, jumping off the back of the boat, and maybe he'll get picked up by one of the boats. So he's got his life jacket on, very important. I think Bear Grylls is there to pick him up out of the water.
Oh, good.
Turn the tide on plastic. Next to Axo Nobel in front, Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Sun Hung Kai Scallywag and Team Brunel, and then Dong Fong Race Team. Here we go, the last two boats right there. Axo Nobel and Turn the Tide on plastic. Axo Nobel went for the masthead zero as well, and that's probably why they're towards the back here.
I would agree, yeah. I think, you know, they're already talking about reefing. I'm just surprised with these two calls on the masthead, and hopefully they just go for, well, we'll see what happens here, but I'm surprised they haven't gone for a sail change just to get the setup right. You know, you see the whole main inverting there, that's just too much power. Drop the reef in or get the fractional in the air and make this sail change is what these teams are going to be looking for in the next few minutes.
Seamanship.
Seawomanship.
Yeah.
Seawomanship. Is that a thing?
Crucial.
Yeah. No, and it's also about sailing the boat correctly. You don't need the power, you just go slower. So a lot of these teams might be still just learning the limits of the sails, learning the crossovers. Also, it's about reading what the pressure is supposed to be doing, and the angle of the pressure is a big, what you have to read on the course to make also the correct sail change. You see the Turn the Tide there just actually going through to leeward of Axo Nobel because they have the correct configuration.
Masthead zero has not worked out well for Axo Nobel or Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Just my tiny little calls that make a big difference.
Yeah, exactly, and it's also about setting it up for the long haul on the leg, and I mean, conserving energy is also a big choice here. If you don't have to make the sail change, you really wouldn't choose to. So I'd be really interested to figure out why they went for the masthead. Maybe they thought it was going to be a bit lighter or a bit more lifted, a bit more eased angle coming out, and they could have gained on this bit of on this leg. Or maybe they actually are hoping to stay on the masthead all the way on this after this last turning mark. We'll have to have a look. But there it is again. You just see half the masthead inverted, the main totally inverted. Way too much power on the boat.
Overpowered. Mensa isn't drawing at all. Maybe they're just standing by for a reef there.
Yeah, maybe. Gives you an idea of all that they're going to have to deal with here for the next few days. Plenty of wind.
Okay, let's have a little closer look at the racecourse all the way down to Cape Town. So we watch Axo Nobel just trying to get a handle on how much sail they have up in the air. It's a little too much. Before we do that, let's just have a look at Turn the Tide on plastic. They seem to be all good. Lisbon giving her nails. She's got an injury, but she's going. Henry Bombi just Kafari looking very happy at the back. Let's have a look at the weather ahead of these boats as they head down now. The next mark is in Table Bay, Cape Town. But before they do that, 4 days of 30 to 35 knot breeze in the Atlantic. They go between the Cape Verdes, Madeira, and they've got to just avoid the light spots underneath those mountainous islands. And then it's to the horse latitudes as they go past the Cape Verdes. And the horse latitudes, otherwise known as the doldrums, very light bit of air around the equator. Then they sort of turn east to try and pick up the trade winds going in towards Cape Town. Table Mountain, and a long history of Cape Town hosting the stopovers for the Volvo Ocean Race. And often that is a moment where teams regroup and they sometimes change crews, and we've seen some dramatic moments. Okay, let's have a little preview of what we're going to get to see in Cape Town.
The next leg is Lisbon to Cape Town.
One of our favourite legs of the race.
It's going to be tricky over 20 days.
That's kind of what we signed up for.
You start with your full weather gear, and after a few days you're in your boxer shorts. To sail the extra miles and keep going south, or go more to a straight line to Cape Town.
Well, you have to make that choice.
The equator, and then plenty of hard stuff at the end.
From Namibia to Cape Town, the sea state is just terrible. You want to arrive, maybe you win, but it's still a challenge.
It looks like it will be quite a fast ride.
Sally, a few final comments to this start and the leg ahead.
Leg ahead, I think we just have to wish all these teams well and safe travels as they have the ride of their lives for the next few days and enjoy the show.
Well, we'd like to thank Nick Bice for some great stories from on the water. Still managed to get them in. And remember, you can follow with all of this coverage over the next 3 weeks. Don't miss the action on Facebook at Volvo Ocean Race. Like, share and comment. Of course, there is an Instagram for the great photos at Volvo Ocean Race. And Twitter at Volvo Ocean Race. And remember, you can sign up for the game on the Volvo Ocean Race website, so you can play along as well with your very own boat. That's always good fun, and there are thousands doing it. And I tell you, the iconic 7,000-mile nautical mile leg to Cape Town through the doldrums, sacrifice to King Neptune, big breeze in the South Atlantic, and this leg is where dreams can be broken and legends could be made. It's goodbye from Lisbon, and it's hello to Cape Town 3 weeks' time. Thanks for joining.